Good morning. I can see that the microphone is in sync now. I guess I really should check it. That's one of the things I should just make a list and check the microphone. You can see here I'm using Manicam, and right down here you can see where it says mic in Elgato Wave 3. See, so we're in sync this time. Whoops, wrong one. Move this over here. Things are a mess here. Darlene, my ex-wife, she called an ambulance. She's been having shoulder pain and going up into her neck, and it progressively gets, naproxen seemed like it worked for a while, and maybe it still is, but I think she kind of gets focused, on it, and finally she just called, 911, and they came. Of course, they left her wheelchair here, of course. And then if she doesn't get admitted, which I don't think she's going to get admitted, but I'm not a doctor, if she doesn't get admitted, then they have to send her home. But, according to her, as far as I can tell, there's private transportation services that will, like her wheelchair is here, and she can't walk. She's wheelchair bound. One thing, she had polio when she was 5, and when we got married, she was 18 and I was 26, and she had to use crutches to get around. She couldn't. Now inside her house, she could walk, maybe put her hand on a wall and she could make her way. But now she's she's had a lot of medical problems, cancer a couple times at least and stuff. So anyway, right now we're concerned that we don't have a car, and she is Darlene is kind of a pain, and she can't get into a car. Well, people do get into cars, and, but anyway, there's private transport services that will bring somebody for money. And I think it's maybe like $150. I'm not sure how exactly that works. They will bring her home. I don't have $150. And my son, he doesn't have 100. Well, he might. Maybe at this right now he might, but probably not tomorrow. And she doesn't have the money. We just paid the rent and the electric bill, and she pays part, I pay part, and all that kind of stuff. We don't have any money. Hillary, our second oldest daughter, she makes a lot of money, but right now she's really short of money. She made some bad decisions on and gets taken advantage of by people. There's something about Hillary. They can just see her coming, like, oops, and they know they can take advantage of her. And so several times, and maybe this time, Hillary will have to, anyway, if Darlene is released from the ER, which I think she will be, unless they find something. Her neck up into, or her shoulder up into her neck is hurting, and it varied. And finally, after, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks, whatever, and apparently she said it was increasing, so it looks like Hillary's going to have to pay for the transportation service. You have to pay them, If you're in the UK or something, or Canada, this is welcome to American healthcare. So what else is going on? I've changed again a little bit. I disconnected the second camera. That didn't have anything to do with the microphone, volume, I don't think. And I have enough resources, I think, so I may hook it back up again. But anyway, I disconnected the second camera. I think I deleted it. I think I made a video, I think yesterday, of, are they still on the floor? Yeah, they're still here. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 keyboards behind me on the floor. And I think in the video that I made yesterday, I showed them. I didn't go through a whole, but I just showed them here and talked a little bit about them. And they're still behind me. The keyboard that I'm using now is, okay, this is one I showed a few days ago, and I showed the setting up of the programming of the lights and that kind of stuff. But and this is okay. I should just stick with it. But this DOS keyboard, it's really great, and all the letters are, I mentioned that, like on a couple of these other keyboards, the G doesn't look like a G. The B, they didn't close in the, but on this it's correct, and this also has, which I like, is the volume control up here. And this thing is really built well. And what's extra nice about it is that, this plugs into a USB, it's a USB 3, and plugs into a USB 3. And then there are 2 USB 3 ports here, and that's nice. But it's not lit. And I could, in fact, I did have that setting up yesterday. The light that clicks, on. And, but I do like this keyboard and everything about it. But I probably should stick with, but I can't make this have lights, but although they do sell, this is like a $200 keyboard. And of course the others are lighted. And you can get that one, but I think it's a little bit more than $200 for it, for having the lights. Let's see, what's going on? I've got a bunch of things, but right now I'm waiting to call. My daughter, tried to call the hospital, and they're not answering the phone. That's not unusual. This is America, And she can't understand, but I worked hospital security for 30 years, and I can understand, somebody is supposed to be monitoring a phone line or something, and then they decide to leave and don't switch the phone lines over, or they don't do something. It just, I remember, this is changing the subject a little bit, the movie War Games, where the computer calls, looking for a game that they can download or whatever. You know, there's some marketing people. I'm not sure if maybe they've stopped that, people from doing that. But like one hospital, I remember working at a small hospital, and boom, it started with, and like 50 of the numbers were like patient rooms and stuff like that, and it was it would call if nobody answered or whatever. If you did answer and you hung up, or you said this is nobody here and you hung up, it would go to the next. I think it even rang in the patient's rooms. I think, although at a certain time at night the switchboard would, or either would be automatic, turn off the incoming calls and that type of stuff. But still, oh God. But Darlene's had a lot of medical. I think, did I mention that she had polio when she was 5, and all the cancer a couple times, maybe more than a couple. All types of things, but I don't think we're divorced. We were married. She was 18, I was 26, and I don't think she ever really respected me. And the same now. She doesn't listen to me, but I think that may be something going on with her early Alzheimer's or something. But I think it's just, I think that she thinks he has nothing interesting to say, or he won't know the answer, to that, or whatever. I forget how long she's been, her and our grown son moved in over here. I was here. And to share, because it's so, rent just keeps going up and everything, moved in, and I don't remember, did they bring did I not have a washer and a dryer here? Because this apartment complex, they don't supply, they supply, stove and a refrigerator, but they don't supply a washer or dryer. You're expected to bring that if you want it. But anyway, so I don't know how many years, a whole bunch of years, Darlene has, been living here. And she didn't think I know how to, well, at first she didn't think I knew how to turn the dryer on, and she'd say, well, Jimmy will have to do that. And then the washing machine, well, I'm glad I got to do it, I had to put stuff in the washing machine for her, and, put the soap in, but then she didn't think that I would be able to, turn the, so finally after, it's been years actually, years, and finally, I guess Jimmy was busy or something like that, my son, our son, and then finally I said, I think I can figure out how to turn this thing on, and I don't know, and so, and it worked, and she was shocked. She has, I mean, I'm not the brightest guy in the world, but come on, good grief, So a lot of times she doesn't, listen to me. And then too, what is aggravating is, like, I'll ask her something, and I'm kind of worried, maybe she's a few years, but okay, she was 18 and I was 26, so that's the difference in our age. So I think she's in her 70s, I think. But I'll ask her something, like if I'm going to make chicken and fries or whatever, I'll say, "And you may make some for you too?" No answer. And there'll be other stuff like that, and no answer. And so finally what I've just started doing is, like, just forget it. Like I ask if she wanted something to eat. I wait a little bit. No answer. So, uh, anyway, our daughter is worried that she's going to that she will be released from the emergency room, to come home, and she doesn't have her wheelchair, and the uh, private services, I don't know, they charge $150 or something or other to transport you, and I told Hillary, I said, well, the hospital's not going to, they're going to get rid of her. They're not going to admit her to a room, in the hospital because, you know, so I said, they could put her in a cab, but she would say, well, I can't get into a cab. Well, they could put her into, not the first hospital I worked at, but all the hospitals after that. Security were required once a year. That was one of the things we had to, have a refresher course on how to get people, how wheelchairs should be, how everybody should be strapped in, and, how to put them in a wheelchair, how to get them out of a wheelchair, and all that type of stuff. That was just like once a year we had, and it was very brief, but, we had to go down to where the helicopter was, and one of the pilots would explain things to us again, like they did every year, and and show us where the shut-off switch was. That if the helicopter crashes and the blade is still going, where if we can, we should shut that down so it doesn't chop any people up, and stuff like that. All that kind of stuff that you have to, go through, and I get no credit from it. Of course. Oh, like my daughter just called. I know she's worried because she's calling the hospital. Nobody's answering. But I told her. She said, "Well, and I said, if they have to, they can put her in a cab, but she'll say no, that she can't get in the cab. Well, they can put her in a cab." And then, of course, I said the problem would be when she got here. And I said, I couldn't lift her out of the cab or get her out of the cab, even if I took the wheelchair out there, and she wouldn't trust me anyway. So I said I would just have to, there's a fire station a few hundred feet from here, by the way. I said I'd just have to call over there and have a couple of firemen come over and, get her into a wheelchair. My son is quiet right now, thank God. I think he finally went to sleep. It's noon, well, almost 1 p.m. Well, you can tell like above. Let's see, Trump on his way to D.C. for the arraignment. Here's what's expected to unfold in the D.C. courtroom today. I think Trump has been lucky so far. I mean, this is a unique situation. It's weird, but a judge could order, Trump not, Trump to be held in prison for his trial because he. Or, at the very least, they could take his passport, and the judge could also order that he has to stay in Florida. I think these charges are in the Washington D.C. area. So I mean, It's really, I made a video and then I deleted it, so I'm not going to go into it again. I made a video yesterday because of, let's see, could Donald Trump serve as president if convicted? And I made about a 30-minute video on that. And I mean, I unloaded and I covered all the points. And I was upset. And I made it. And then when I made the video, I thought, damn. But then I turned off the ability to comment totally. And so then I went to bed, and then I lay there in bed a little while, and I thought, no, I don't make videos I don't make videos like that. I don't, So I got up, and I think 3 people had checked it, and then I deleted the video, and I'm not going to go into that again. But it's an interesting subject, but if I go into it, I'm going to go too far. And the question is, could Donald Trump serve as president if convicted? And that's what I was answering, and then I just, And I did at the end of the thing, I did put, this is an unusual, I forget exactly what I said, this is an unusual video for me. Because I never kicked somebody off of my system. And I always gave everybody the opportunity to reply and not, deleted their stuff or whatever. And I said, but I'm going to make it where nobody can leave a comment. And that's true from like 1982. Back in those days, the early days of computer bulletin board systems or whatever, like when there was 2 other bulletin board systems in Kansas City, Missouri, and then I was the 3rd. And like one of them was I'll make a general, it's true, but if, like I had a Radio Shack Model 1 computer, and everybody was welcome to log in, everybody. And at Christmas time, kids would get a modem, and man, they would just be calling, and there were very few bulletin board systems, they'd be calling like crazy. And people who had, some people, system operators, some of those people would just turn their bulletin board system off for a few days, just because they didn't want those new kids that got a modem to be able to call in. I didn't do that. And then people that had an Apple computer, bulletin board system, if you didn't have a lot of those, maybe all of them, if you didn't have an Apple computer, they wouldn't let you in, they'd kick you off and that kind of stuff. I didn't do that. Everybody was welcome, and I never really had any problems with anybody. I didn't block anybody. I think I might have blocked 3 or 4, maybe 5 people. And I think one of those people made threats against my kids. And I can't remember what the others, but everybody was always welcome. And I mean, like years later, like when the first internet service provider came to Kansas City, Missouri, I went down, I already was bringing in internet for people, dialing with my, computer into another computer and getting that stuff in. But I went down to the internet, new one, that just the only one, I went down there, and they weren't expecting anybody to show up. I guess they were expecting everybody to call up and say, hey, install internet for me. But so I went down there, went in, and the guy came out kind of surprised to see me. I mean, it wasn't like an office. It was like, came out of, and I said, I'd like to sign up for the service. He said, oh, okay. And he said, what's your name? And I said, Jim Howard. And he said, Jim Howard of Howard's Notebook? I said, yeah. He said, when I was a teenager, I called in, you were the first, I called into your bulletin board system, and you actually went in and chatted with me a number of times. And then he said, just a minute, I got to call the guy I'm working with, and he called him out. This is Jim Howard of Howard, that happened, that happened a lot. And then a few years later on, being a bank or someplace like, someplace like that, and something would come up and, oh, I called in, I called in and you chatted with me. So, but anyway, I don't want to get into this political thing. I do want to say something because I've seen this thing asked repeatedly. Could Donald Trump serve as president if convicted? Now, I'm not going to let this make me get pissed off and start, Okay. One, although he's not president, now, he can still be impeached. Congress could still impeach him. And if they did, one of the things they can do is that you cannot hold any office. Now, I'm not sure if that would apply. I've seen where it looks like it's applied for anything, like dog catcher. But I have a feeling that would be, since it's a federal court, that which the one today I don't think is a federal court. I think that, well, no, if the House and the Senate, if they impeach him, well, one is they, bring to trial. If it was upheld by the Senate, then he could be denied for sure he couldn't hold any office. And I think, again, I'm not want to get into this, but Trump isn't too smart, to say the least. And I'm sure the lawyers have explained to him, but I don't think he listens to them, or he thinks he knows more, because he said this thing. He said things like that, he went to a military high school. Well, I think he went to a military, I think they had ROTC in the college that he went to, too. I went to a military high school also. But he said that he knew more than the military, rank and file military people did, because he was in military high school, or even if it was 3 years in college. But he doesn't, and it's with everything. He was, when the COVID thing, he was saying maybe we could drink. He said he knew more than the doctors. That's one of the things that he says. He does stuff like that. But, and I'm sure his lawyers, because he's gone through so many of them, those are a whole bunch of them that he's had are being disbarred. And plus he didn't pay them. I think this court that he's going to today in D.C. is state court. And Trump cannot, see, that's what people are concerned about. Okay, if he's elected president, can he serve? And then he could pardon himself. And I guess he could, which that whole thing needs to be changed, But he can't pardon himself for state crimes. And this thing he's going to today is a state court. And so if he is elected president, he can't pardon himself for those state crimes. So anyway, I don't want to go into more. I started out mild like this. I'm mild, and then I just got so upset with the way the whole thing is going. But I don't think it's going to happen. But here today, that the courthouse that he's going to, the judge can just say, well, you're going to be held, because Trump has made just about every day threats against juries, threats against prosecutors, and just on, which you're not allowed to do, And the judge could just say, okay, well, you're, making threats and trying to rile people up or whatever, so we're just going to hold you in prison until you have your trial, and then, if you're found innocent, you'll be let go, which he won't be found innocent. So, but I don't think that's going to happen either. Actually, he's being treated much. I know he doesn't think that he's being treated much better than he should be. But Anyway, that's because I don't want to get all upset again. Anyway, how 30 minutes. Okay, this is a good point to bring this to a conclusion. I think my son has gone to sleep. Thank God. Praise God. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please leave a thumbs up. Click on a link. Do something to help if you can.